regional response mechanism on standby to support Guyana, even as the country continues to be impacted by heavy rainfall and flooding.
CARICOM Secretary General says the region should be concerned about G7 agreement on minimum global tax levy. And the Right Honorable Dame Janet Bostwick of the Bahamas is the recipient of the 13th CARICOM Triennial Award for Women. Welcome to this week's episode of the CARICOM News Time. I'm Tusankin English Francis. Thank you for joining us.
The Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency has placed the regional response mechanism on standby to support Guyana, even as the country continues to be impacted by heavy rainfall and flooding. On June 11, Director General of Guyana's Civil Defense Commission, Lieutenant Colonel Kester Craig, updated CDEMA and the United Nations Resident Coordinators' offices in the Caribbean on the situation, which has been declared as a Level 2 national disaster by President of Guyana, His Excellency Irfan Ali. A Level 2 disaster means that the event is within the country's capacity to respond, but external assistance is also needed. As the government responds to alleviate the impact of the disaster, the National Assembly approved $10 billion Guyana dollars to support relief and recovery efforts. CARICOM member states are extending assistance to Guyana. Chair of CARICOM, Prime Minister Keith Rowley of Trinidad and Tobago, has already commissioned the Ministries of Trade and National Security to coordinate its relief assistance. The flooding situation in Guyana is coinciding with Exercise Trade Winds that was launched in Georgetown on the 14th of June. Chief of Staff of Guyana's Defense Force, Brigadier Godfrey Bess, was hopeful that during the U.S.-sponsored multinational exercise, local troops would receive training in best practices in handling national disasters. 5 CARICOM countries, the Bahamas, Bermuda, Haiti, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago, are participating in the military training exercise.
CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Erwin Larocque says the region should be concerned about the soundings of G7 finance ministers' agreement to reform the global tax system by the introduction of a global minimum corporate tax rate for multinational entities. When they met in London recently, G7 finance ministers endorsed the principle of a global minimum rate that proposes multinationals pay tax of at least 15% in each country they operate. Reacting to the agreement when he appeared on Prime Minister Roosevelt's CARIC's Facebook program Anu Palais, the CARICOM Secretary General said the goalpost for international tax governance continues to be moved.
They keep moving the goalposts. When it suits them, when it was suiting them in their phase of development, it was quite trying. Now that they have reached a certain level and they are saying, well, you must follow us and not do like we did before. And it's a real problem. And again, I can only say to them, that is where the combined voices of CARICOM countries matter, whether it's in the international financial institution, whether it's to the European Union, because, sometimes they do want things from us. And I've seen sometimes when we have held our ground that maybe they might reconsider a particular position. And I think we have to recognize that the strength that we have, our combined strength, is greater than the sum of the individual member states. It is greater. And I think we have to exercise that.
In a statement following the agreement, the Bahamas Ministry of Finance said the country reasserts its sovereignty to determine its own tax structure. CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Erwin Larocque has underscored the critical importance of CARICOM to member states, particularly in the world we live in today. He was responding to a question Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt's CARIC posed to him about the effectiveness of CARICOM and its efficacy to member states in advancing their development interests.
Try to imagine our region without a CARICOM. Try to imagine without a coordination. Try to imagine without a CDEMA that has come to member states. Whenever there's a hurricane in our region, a disaster, the first responders are member states responding through the coordinating mechanism of CDEMA. Try to imagine a region without the RSS. Although the RSS is not CARICOM, the RSS coordinates fully with the CARICOM impacts and so on. Try to imagine the region without the CXC. CXC is part of CARICOM.
Ambassador LaRocque described Secretary General-designate Dr. Carla Barnett as an excellent person to lead the Secretariat going forward. Prime Minister Scarrett hosted the Secretary General on his Facebook program Anu Pale on Sunday, the 6th of June. Continuing its tradition of recognizing the contributions of distinguished Caribbean women to socio-economic development, CARICOM has selected the 13th recipient of its Triennial Award for Women. The Right Honorable Dame Janet Bostwick of the Bahamas emerged as the winner of the 2021 award out of 13 distinguished CARICOM women. Minister of Social Services and Urban Development of the Bahamas and chair of the 40th meeting of the Council for Human and Social Development, the Honorable Frankie Campbell, made the announcement on Friday, June 4th, during that meeting. The previous recipient of the CARICOM Triennial Award was veteran advocate for domestic workers' rights, Ms. Shirley Price of Jamaica. Ms. Anne-Marie Williams, Deputy Program Manager for Gender at the CARICOM Secretariat, read a citation in honor of Dame Bostwick.
The Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick, counsel and attorney, is known as a model politician and pioneer among women in the Bahamas. She's admired and respected as a champion for the empowerment of women, not only in her native Commonwealth of the Bahamas, but also in the region and beyond. Dame Janet's activism on women's issues is steeped. It started in the mid-1960s and continued throughout her political career. As a trade unionist, she campaigned to improve the status of women, primarily because of the inequities they face. These range from the pay gap with men, non-existent maternity benefits, to job insecurity at the time. Once admitted to the bar, she became even more vocal. She advocated to audiences in churches, women's groups, and unions for more participation of men in the rearing of their children, increased maintenance, and for a resolution of issues associated with children born out of wedlock, included improve custody and the administration of justice for children and young people, and for changes in legislation around sexual offenses, domestic violence, and matrimonial matters.
While the COVID-19 pandemic has wreaked havoc on women's lives and they have been on the front lines of the response as nurses and healthcare workers, they are noticeably absent in recovery committees and processes. Minister of Social Services and Urban Development of the Bahamas, the Honorable Frankie Campbell, made this observation in his address on Thursday, the 3rd of June, as chair of the 40th meeting of the Council for Human and Social Development, COSOD.
We should ensure that women are included in the response and recovery decision-making, whether at the local, municipal, or national levels. This inclusive approach, coupled with transformational measures such as gender-responsive budgeting, will lead to better outcomes for all of our societies.
At the meeting, CARICOM ministers with responsibility for gender issues agreed to implement gender-sensitive responses and support programs and partnerships to address the special needs of women and other vulnerable populations impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. For more stories, you can visit the CARICOM news site at today.caricom.org or the CARICOM website at caricom.org. Like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. See you next time.